300 years ago, this so-called will of the heavens showed up and completely changed the rules of the game for the whole world. With all that craziness, countless secret realms and dungeons just popped up on Earth. Along with them came some seriously powerful monsters, and the end of humanity seemed like just a matter of time. After the initial crisis, the Awakened emerged to take on this whole threat. These Awakened used their abilities to save the world, so countries decided that everyone would awaken at the age of 18. During an awakening ceremony, we see some students failing while others finally get their classes. A combat class is what everyone's after, while creation classes are seen as the most useless. Suddenly, the top student in the class steps up, and everyone is shocked by what they see during his awakening. Everyone starts wondering if he got a divine rank profession, something that hadn't happened in centuries. They say that whenever a divine rank appears, a bizarre phenomenon occurs in the sky and on the ground. His awakening was a success, and he seems pretty confident about the result he got. At that moment, the principal approaches, super impressed, and asks which combat profession he awakened. But the guy gives a little smirk and, to everyone's surprise, reveals he didn't awaken a combat class. The older man is floored by the answer and immediately asks if it's a support class. He then reveals he's a divine rank spirit cultivator, a creation class that just speeds up plant growth. His principal is stunned and says that even if it's a divine rank, it's useless if he can't fight. The young man thanks him for the tip and says he'll think about it, but he doesn't seem fazed in the slightest. He then says goodbye to the teachers, saying he has better things to do, and simply walks away. Meanwhile, the other students start laughing at him, thinking his class is completely worthless. As he walks past his classmates, they keep taunting him, saying he'll always be a weakling. Our protagonist reflects that in this world, the only thing that really matters is being strong. He couldn't care less about the others as a system screen pops up, activating the Zerg natural disaster. The notification confirms his class and informs him that the initial mother bug has been unlocked. The young man is satisfied because his new class is a perfect match for his system. And that's when we find out our protagonist's name is Jiang Chen, and this is his story. He explains that he was actually reincarnated into this world of awakened beings after he passed away. In this world full of monsters and dungeons, only the strongest are truly respected. The kid was reborn as an orphan, and to survive in this new place, he had to fight. That's why he gave it his all and trained like crazy before turning 18. He also studied hard, because he thought he'd have to fend for himself to make a living. Our MC remembers that the insect race is incredibly strong and caused a whole lot of damage during the Dark Ages. The last time a disaster like this happened, 9 of the 12 human kings had to sacrifice themselves to stop the threat. He knows that in this world, strength is everything and doesn't care what the system is as long as it makes him powerful, so he activates it. Suddenly, the guy is sucked into a giant blue whirlpool that takes him to another place. Inside, he realizes the strange place is his sea of consciousness, a space that only exists in his mind. In front of him, the young man sees a giant tree, and is surprised to discover that it's his talent. Several screens describe his abilities, which allow him to evolve things, sacrifice items to generate fruits, and accelerate growth. He realizes his talents fit perfectly with his Zerg power, and the system asks if he wants to summon the mother bug. Without a second thought, the kid accepts and tells the system to start the summoning right away. A notification pops up, and the summoning process begins, enveloping him in a very dark energy. The young man gets serious as he can feel an extremely strong aura coming from his summon. The notification confirms the success and reveals he summoned the disaster-level mother bug, Wings of the 9 Miasmas. Before him appears a gigantic and terrifying creature with purple wings and a body that commands respect. His screen shows that the insect is a lord of death who has already destroyed a world and has 100% intimacy with him. The young man is startled by the creature's size, which calls him master, and says it's starving. A system screen pops up, informing him that the growth rate has increased and the first upgrade is free. Without thinking twice, the guy decides to take the chance and tells the system to do the upgrade. A green energy envelopes the area, and he realizes the insect needs to eat to level up. The kid gets serious as he feels the powerful aura coming from his creature's evolution. Suddenly, a pair of bright, purple eyes stares at the protagonist in a very intimidating way. Just then, the creature finishes its evolution and takes the form of a girl in dark armor. The notification says she gains 10 times more experience and increases his attributes by 20%. Our young man is completely shocked and speechless at his summon's new appearance. The insect girl hugs him excitedly and announces that her evolution was a success. He turns bright red, surprised to see his creature has evolved into a human form. Her status sheet appears while the little girl asks her master for food. He then understands that his profession is a perfect match for the system, and that he doesn't need a combat class. The young man realizes that if he kills and devours monsters quickly, he'll soon have a Zerg army. But he remembers the system's information and concludes that this power can't be shown to anyone, so he'll use his class as a cover while he gets strong enough to reveal his true abilities. Suddenly, the water under the boy's feet begins to ripple, and he realizes something is wrong. The whole place starts to shake, and he wonders what's happening as his creature floats. With her eyes glowing, the little girl calls out to her master with a very serious look on her face. She then cracks a creepy smile, and says she can feel the presence of something nearby. Her image becomes distorted as she continues to talk about what she's sensing at that moment. Just like that, everything goes back to normal, and the protagonist opens his eyes, startled, not understanding what happened. Back in the real world, he finds himself face to face with a man with a scar on his face. The older man stares at him and asks if the phenomenon everyone saw in the city was caused by him. The young man realizes this guy is extremely strong and wonders why a master is talking to him. A crowd around them feels the crushing pressure and starts to whisper about the mysterious man. At that moment, the young man understands that the older man is releasing his aura to intimidate him on purpose. He then concludes that the warrior in front of him is actually testing his newly awakened strength. Inside his mind, the insect creature calls out to her master with a voice full of hunger. His summon appears next to him and says the man is a threat but looks very appetizing. Our protagonist panics because his summon wants to attack the powerful warrior in front of him. His system warns that the target is a high-value threat and that the mother bug is going to devour him. With that, a purple aura explodes from the young man as his creature prepares for an aggressive attack. Several people nearby feel the dark energy and back away, frightened by the sense of danger. With great effort, he tries to contain the power, as his creature gets aggressive when she's hungry. The man with the scar realizes his pressure test ended up provoking an unexpected reaction from the kid. A system screen confirms he suppressed the attack but needs to feed his summon soon. The warrior then praises the young man for resisting and says he's worthy of his divine rank. Our protagonist asks who he is, relieved that his secret hasn't been discovered. He introduces himself as G-Gang, leader of the night patrol, and invites the kid to join his team. Our MC is surprised and understands that the man is from the famous night patrol. He knows the night patrol fights on the front lines, which is why a lot of people avoid the group. He then thinks that his summon needs to devour monsters to accumulate power and reproduce. Because of this, he realizes that if he joins the night patrol, he'll have the perfect chance to feed his creature. With that in mind, the kid concludes that this organization is perfect for his plans. The patrol leader tries to convince him, saying that as a divine rank, he'll have plenty of resources. But the young man cuts him off and shakes his hand firmly to seal the deal. He then declares that he's willing to join the night patrol. Surprising the leader, the man with the scar is shocked by the response and wonders if the kid is serious. Our guy confirms with a smile, while his little summon keeps complaining that she's hungry. He then says his goodbyes and tells him he'll report to HQ in 3 days. The leader didn't expect it to be that easy and regrets forgetting to ask about his class. Suddenly, an elderly man comes running up and asks where the new divine rank awakened is. The old man then argues with G-Gang, asking if he's gonna let a divine rank creation class get himself wiped out. At that moment, G-Gang is shocked as he realizes that phenomenon was caused by a creation class. Back in his neighborhood, the protagonist runs into some neighbors who greet him. The young man smiles and tells them not to worry, as he's not ashamed of his class. An old man comforts him, saying that even without fighting, he can still be useful in other jobs. The older man then invites him to go with them to a beginner's secret realm, and he accepts. A system notification pops up on the screen, confirming the party was successfully formed. At that, the young man's eyes glow with a blue light, and he starts to enter the portal. They are transported to a dark place, and the group wonders where they are. Suddenly, some torches with blue flames light up on their own, illuminating the area. His system reveals they've entered the Temple of the Undead, a C-rank secret realm. The older man panics and wonders why they were sent to such a dangerous dungeon. One of the girls thinks that because of the young man's divine rank, the system balanced the difficulty. Her friend gets really scared and suggests that maybe they should just leave. But the group leader musters up his courage and says it's a great chance to get some good items. At that moment, several undead soldiers with glowing blue eyes emerge from the darkness. The warrior yells for the young man to stay back and leaps toward the monsters to attack. With a powerful strike, the warrior slices the monster in half with his greatsword. He then shouts for the purple-haired girl to boost his talent's power. The young woman complies and casts a strengthening spell on her companion. At that moment, the man's eyes begin to glow with a very intense blue energy. With his strength increased, he charges forward and defeats several monsters at once. Watching from a distance, the protagonist realizes just how dangerous the life of an adventurer is. He decides he needs to get stronger so he can repay his friend's help. His summon appears by his side and tells him there are plenty of monsters to be devoured here. The young man then decides to test his creature's abilities and gives her a command. He unleashes his summon's poison barrier to attack the fallen enemies. The monsters' bodies are completely corroded by the dark, poisonous mist. but their level is low, so the growth rate is pretty slow for him. He then decides to follow his friends and wait for a better opportunity to act. Suddenly, his little creature on his shoulder alerts him to something nearby. The young man looks ahead and notices the smell of blood in the air and more enemies coming. Before him appears a level 10 Shadow Spectre, a creature in armor with a blue hood. Our guy realizes that although the monster's level is higher, his own stats are far superior. He then looks at his status sheet and decides to use the monsters to test his new abilities. With that, the young man orders his summon to transform into a poisonous mist and follow him closely. A horde of shadow specters appears and rushes toward the protagonist. With a confident smile and his eyes glowing purple, the kid prepares for battle. He then runs through the enemies as the poisonous mist spreads everywhere. Several monsters get confused and start to disintegrate as they're hit by the purple poison. The young man stands there watching as the creatures around him turn to dust because of his power. His system rewards him with several messages of special prizes for defeating the enemies. He's satisfied and notices that the devouring value increases faster this way, while his creature asks for more. In the background, more monsters with glowing blue eyes emerge from the darkness and approach him. At that, he gets worried about his friends and decides to end this as quickly as possible. His summon then responds with confidence, saying all the monsters are easy prey for her. A voice shouts in concern, seeing that Mr. Wong is injured during the intense battle against the monsters. But the group leader protects the girl and says that she's a combat class. A wound like that is nothing. With a bruised face, he realizes the monsters are getting more aggressive and stronger. So he tells the young woman to find the protagonist and get out of there while he holds off the enemies. Suddenly, a huge creature appears above him, ready to deliver a fatal blow. The warrior despairs, knowing he won't have time to dodge the strike coming his way. But at that moment, a hand appears and uses dark energy to stop the monster in mid-air. The monster starts to fall apart, and the protagonist appears to save his friend. His older friend is shocked by the scene and asks if the kid is okay. He then wonders how the kid did that since he has a creation class, not a combat one. Our young man reveals he has a secret poison ability and asks the girls to take the injured man. The group leader is impressed by his power, but says it's too dangerous to stay there alone. With a confident look, the young man assures them he'll be fine and they don't need to worry. As they move away, a system notification warns that the dungeon boss is being summoned. The young woman then says she trusts the guy, and that they need to believe in his decision. Mr. Wong then throws his sword to the young man and tells him to return it later. Our guy catches the weapon and promises he'll be back soon, so he doesn't need to worry. A system screen appears, showing the attributes of the powerful sword he received. He realizes the sword can extend the range of his poison barrier and gets ready. Just then, the dungeon boss slowly approaches with its heavy armored feet. The young man then uses his poison mist and the sword to cut down several enemies at once. He smiles confidently, remembering he was first place in swordsmanship in the entire school. Using his agility, he moves quickly among the monsters while spreading the poison. Suddenly, the young man notices something, and his face turns serious as he looks to the side. He then leaps into the air and delivers a powerful strike with the sword against one of the enemies. But the dungeon boss, with its glowing red eyes, manages to defend against the attack. Our guy doesn't give up and blocks the monster's counter attack with all his strength. The force of the impact is so great that the stone floor begins to crack under his feet. Even so, the boss is pushed back by the young adventurer's power. The kid realizes the boss is stronger than he thought and prepares for the final fight. But the young man gets worried and wonders how he's going to explain all this to Mr. Wong. The level 15 undead king emerges, towering amidst the dungeon's rubble. With that, the creature charges at high speed toward the young man to attack him. Our protagonist then shouts his summon's name to help him in the battle. A beautiful white-haired warrior appears and asks her master if she can fight. With a single punch, the creature shatters the dungeon boss's sword with ease. She then rushes forward and begins an intense fight against the undead king in the darkness. With her quick and precise strikes, the warrior hits the boss repeatedly without stopping. Finally, the dungeon boss is defeated, and its armor begins to fall apart. His summon stands there with the monster's sword in her hands as a purple aura surrounds her. The young man is surprised and didn't expect his creature to defeat the boss so easily. Suddenly, a floating blue crystal appears where the boss was defeated. Our young man observes the crystal and realizes it's gathering the magic around it. With that, a large amount of blue energy begins to concentrate in the glowing crystal. The energy then transforms into a new, even larger monster, the level 20 undead tyrant. The young man shouts to his summon, telling her they need to destroy the energy crystal inside the monster. Just then, the giant creature opens its mouth, revealing the purple crystal glowing intensely inside. The tyrant attacks with its weapon, but the white-haired warrior manages to dodge the blow with agility. She then leaps into the air and delivers a powerful attack that hits the ground, creating a large crater. With her red eyes glowing, the summon prepares for a new attack with her energy blade. But the giant monster manages to move quickly and dodge the warrior's swift attacks with ease. Our young man is surprised and wonders how such a large creature can be so fast and agile. He then has an idea and thinks that maybe he can use the dungeon's plants to help him in the fight. With a determined look, the young man decides he's going to take the risk and put his new plan into action. At that moment, the protagonist realizes the monster is too fast and its attacks are too powerful. He compares it to a bull in a china shop, but he sees a potential weakness in that. While his summon dodges, the young man notices there are many roots hidden under the ground. His plan is to use his talent as soon as the creature gets close enough to stop it. With his eyes glowing green, the kid decides that the perfect moment to act is now. Then, a green symbol glows intensely in the palm of his hand as he activates his ability. With that, a large skull made of green energy begins to materialize from the ground. The young man leaps into the air, and with a wave of his hand, several enormous roots burst violently from the ground. Several thick roots wrap around the tyrant's body, completely immobilizing it in place. With the enemy trapped, he yells to his partner and says it's now her turn to attack. The warrior responds to her master and leaps toward the completely immobilized boss. Using her dark energy, she creates several tentacles that pierce the tyrant's armor. He sees that his plan worked, but a notification informs him that his ability is on cooldown. With the monster defeated, the blue core is exposed, and the young man knows he needs to destroy it now. Without wasting time, the young man approaches and grabs the crystal with all his might. He then shatters the crystal, and a system notification informs him that the dungeon has been cleared. His score screen shows he got an S rank, while his friends got A and B. With that, a reward screen appears in front of him with several pieces of equipment to choose from. The young man then touches the screen and chooses a blue dagger with a very peculiar shape. He decides he'll give the dagger to Mr. Wong to make up for breaking his sword. Our young man notices that all the equipment is for combat and not for his creation class. He then decides to look at the stats of a giant hammer that was also among the rewards. When he picks up the hammer, it's so heavy that the guy drops it, cracking the entire floor. But suddenly, the protagonist feels something strange and notices an energy enveloping him. A system notification announces that the experience points from the dungeon are being awarded. With that, a large amount of blue energy begins to flow into his body. He then levels up to 6, and his attributes increase by 20%. At that moment, his summon calls him, lightly pulling on the sleeve of his shirt. The beautiful warrior asks if, as a reward, she can eat all the equipment he won, but the young man explains that the items are for his friend and to sell, and that she can't eat them. She then points to the body of the fallen boss and asks if she can at least eat that. The young man remembers that devouring bosses is valuable and agrees that the body belongs to her. He looks at the tyrant's size and thinks it will take her a good while to finish. At that, the little creature gets all excited and shouts that she's going to start devouring everything right away. Suddenly, a monstrous, giant form with glowing purple eyes appears over the body. With a shocked face, the protagonist doesn't understand how his little partner turned into that. The creature then begins to devour the tyrant, making an extremely loud and annoying noise. He covers his ears and is thankful they're in a dungeon, because in the city, they would have been caught by now. A system notification shows that the devouring value is rising by 100 points every second. Our young man realizes that boss meat is different, and decides they need to eat more of them. But he hears footsteps and understands that the noise was so loud his friends heard it and came back. A blue screen shows that the devouring value has already passed 8,800 points. Desperate, he yells for the creature to return to her normal form, because the bar is almost full. At that moment, his friends arrive, surprised to see he cleared the dungeon all by himself. The older man asks how he did it, and the young man lies, saying his poison is strong. He thinks that to get more devouring value, he needs another boss, and for that, he'll have to go to the wasteland. His older friend then says it's a shame he's going into research, since he's so strong, and asks about his future. Just then, the young man reveals he's preparing to join the night patrol, leaving his friend shocked. He explains he's going in 3 days and wants to level up in the wasteland, but the girls get worried. With a confident smile, the young man tells them not to worry about him, but to worry about the monsters. The scene changes to a completely destroyed city covered in a dense, eerie fog. A voice on a train announces that they've arrived, and that everyone going to the wasteland needs to get off. Wearing a hood to hide his face, the protagonist then gets off the train and faces the new location. He observes the devastated scenery and notices there are many other people adventuring there. While eating, he notes that his appetite has increased, and even normal food gives him devouring points. His summon complains about the food, and the young man promises he'll find something better for her to eat. He then looks at a map and a ring he got from his friend, and is grateful for the huge help. Our young man remembers that electronics don't work in the wasteland, and monsters always change locations. The map shows common monsters like firebirds and a dangerous nest he should avoid. Following his friend's advice, he decides to go to a goblin dungeon that's perfect for him. With the map in hand, he decides to head to the goblin dungeon, confident he'll find it quickly. Suddenly, a mysterious voice calls out to him and tells him to stop right there. A strange man rudely asks if he's seen a blonde-haired girl nearby. With his eyes glowing purple, the young man replies that he hasn't seen her and tells the man to show some respect. Upon being touched, the man feels his hand being corroded by purple energy and screams in pain. He's startled because the kid doesn't even seem to be level 10, yet he managed to injure him badly. But when the man tries to back away, the young man asks with a serious look if he gave him permission to leave. The stranger gets furious and asks how the kid dares to touch someone from the Xiao family. Our young man then takes a big leap backward, quickly distancing himself from the enemy. He wonders if this Xiao family is powerful but thinks the guy doesn't seem like a big deal. With his eyes glowing red, the man shouts furiously that the kid is very good at running. The protagonist then unleashes his dark energy and tells his partner not to hold back. His enemy recognizes the black mist and yells that he's not afraid of that ability. Suddenly, a mysterious voice tells someone named Zheng Tai to stay out of it, leaving the young man confused. At that moment, a young man with blue hair appears and asks why Zheng Tai is there and not searching. The master calls him trash and says his servant only knows how to cause trouble wherever he goes. Without a second thought, the blue-haired guy punches his servant in the face with all his might. He then humiliates his subordinate, saying he's just a dog of the family and doesn't deserve their name. Our protagonist watches everything and realizes the master is much more dangerous than his servant. The blue-haired guy turns around and asks if the young man wants compensation for his dog. With a smile, he says the protagonist is interesting and asks if he's going to the wasteland. The young master then suggests that the two of them could go to the wasteland together on a journey, but the young man refuses the offer and says he prefers to go his own way, turning to leave. The blue-haired master finds the young man interesting, while his servant asks to continue the mission. He then says he's already found the girl's trail, and that she fled to an inn in the wasteland. With that, he orders all his men to gather and follow him to prevent her from getting there alive. We then see that in the past, humans had countless cities all over the planet, but everything changed when mystical realms and dungeons invaded human lands for good. Now, only people with powers return to these places in search of power and riches. These places are known as the wasteland, and the young man feels lost because he can't find the nest. His partner complains about the food, and he worries about the time he has to report to the patrol. The young man continues his search, focused on finding the goblin nest soon to level up. Suddenly, he feels a mana fluctuation and realizes he's found a nest, but not the goblin one. He looks up and is startled to see a giant creature with red eyes on top of a building. At that moment, the young man understands it's not just one monster, but an entire swarm of them. His summon asks if she should fight, but he says no because their level is low despite their size. With a loud and terrifying screech, the creatures then jump toward the young man to attack him. Without any fear, the protagonist leaps toward the monsters, ready for a direct fight. With a powerful punch, the young man smashes the creature against the ground, kicking up a lot of dust. His partner then warns him that many more monsters are approaching them from the sky. At that moment, a gigantic horde of winged creatures appears, flying in his direction. Our protagonist creates an energy sword and says his summon can eat as much as she wants. With a determined look and his eyes glowing red, he tells his partner to advance. He cuts down several monsters and thinks he can level up twice with so many enemies around. The dark energy from his sword completely disintegrates the monsters, leaving no trace behind. With the fight over, he tells his partner to devour all the bodies to gain points. But the creature warns that a delicious smell is nearby and that it might be a boss. With his hand outstretched, the young man tells his summon to go investigate the source of the smell. However, the little creature screams in pain as soon as her tentacles touch the thing. The young man is shocked and confused, as he wasn't expecting this reaction from her. He then sees an injured woman on the ground and wonders what kind of monster she is. The woman on the ground looks up, completely confused and disoriented by the situation. With a hand on her head, she sits up and wonders where she is, not recognizing the place. Our protagonist then approaches and asks if the girl is awake, which surprises her. Scared, she backs away and yells for him not to come closer, but the young man tries to calm her down. At that moment, she remembers everything and accuses him of attacking her, but he apologizes. The young woman gets furious with his apology and calls him rude, her face turning red. She then checks her own body while the hunter wonders how she survived his attack. The young woman looks at a watch and says she needs to leave soon before they catch her. With his red eyes, the protagonist becomes suspicious and wonders what she's hiding. He then questions her about why she's in such a hurry to get out of there. She makes up a flimsy excuse, saying she can't fight and needs to leave. The girl says a weird goodbye, and the young man thinks her acting is terrible. Our young man thinks that if monsters are chasing her, it would be great for him to gain more power. But if they're other hunters, the situation would be dangerous, and he considers capturing her. His summon warns him that many things are coming, but he thinks they're just monsters. He is shocked to see what's coming toward him with his own eyes. A gigantic horde of insectoid monsters appears, and the young man is startled by the number. At that moment, he understands that this is what the girl was running from in such a panic, but he's relieved they aren't hunters, and says he won't turn down so many points. The young man then summons his daggers and orders his partner to take the form of a poisonous mist. With his weapons in hand, he faces the horde of creatures, ready for the big battle. Without hesitation, the nearest creature charges at the hunter with its sharp fangs. With a quick jump, the young man slices the monster in half with a precise strike of his blade. He finds it strange, as he notices that these creatures are much faster than the previous ones. Suddenly, another monster tries a surprise attack from behind to catch him off guard. But the hunter turns around quickly and cuts down all the creatures around him with a spin. Even after defeating several enemies, he feels that something is very strange here. He then realizes that the monsters are attacking in turns and working as a team. The young man suspects that a boss is controlling the horde and ordering them to attack in formation. Now he understands why there's no one else here. It's thousands of monsters with a single mind. Our young man realizes he needs to find a way to get to the boss and take it out first. With a clenched fist, he thinks this is going to be a very complicated task to accomplish. Suddenly, his partner appears and says she can understand what the monsters are doing. She then gets angry and yells that those arrogant creatures are challenging her master. With her shout, the entire horde of monsters becomes completely disoriented and confused. His partner explains that she severed the connection between them, and the protagonist is surprised. He then praises his summon and says that now they can go after the big boss and kill it. The young man throws one of his daggers with force and tells his partner to stay close to him. Without the boss's control, the young man realizes these monsters are just a bunch of weaklings. With that, he says the creatures are no longer a threat, and they can't waste time. Our hunter runs, focused on his single target, which is the large monster in the middle of the horde. With a determined look, he thinks this is the one that will give him more points to evolve. Without wasting time, the protagonist plunges his dagger into the monster's head with all his strength. Finally, he defeats the boss and says that now it's time to create his own swarm of insects. The young man observes the body of the defeated creature, and sighs in relief for finally having beaten it. With the victory, a status window appears and informs him that he has leveled up to 14. He is satisfied with his 127 stars of power, which is equivalent to a level 25 hunter. The young man then turns his attention to the rest of the horde that is still around, but he realizes that the creatures are no longer a threat, because they are all fleeing in fear. Our hunter decides not to chase them, as his priority now is to complete his swarm, so he summons 9 and says that all the rest is for her to feed on and get stronger. Our protagonist thinks that hunting elite monsters is the best way to accelerate growth. After a while, the devouring value reaches its maximum, and he realizes it's time to act. His partner returns to her normal form and says she can now start reproducing the swarm for him. With a smile on his face, he gives her the order to start the reproduction process immediately. At that moment, a light shoots up into the sky, and the first generation of insects begins to be created. The young man is surprised to discover that his talent also accelerates the swarm's reproduction. With this, he gains new abilities, and a mark appears on his hand as the count continues. Anxiously, he watches everything and realizes that the reproduction is almost complete, and his army will be born. With a shocked face, the young man wonders if this is his long-awaited swarm of insects. A notification congratulates him on completing his swarm with over 2,300 insects. With this, he is impressed and imagines how large the next generations of his army will be. The young man analyzes the creature's abilities and realizes they can camouflage and self-destruct. Suddenly, his partner hugs him from behind, looking exhausted after the whole creation process. The young man gently strokes her hair and notices that his partner hasn't changed much after the reproduction. The girl then holds his hand and says she needs to rest, leaving the hunter confused. His summon then returns to the nest on his hand, and the young man understands how to hide his army. With a smile, he realizes that the max level of the ability seems to be a fixed functional skill. He understands that she has fallen asleep, and thinks that his partner needs to sleep after consuming so many monsters. At that moment, he remembers that he also received a new ability called Sovereign during the process. Without wasting time, the hunter decides to test his new ability and activates it with a purple glow. With the activation of the skill, the eyes of his insects begin to glow with an intense purple light. His eyes glow in the same color, and he finally understands how the new power really works. The young man realizes that it's a skill to control the swarm, and that it's as easy as moving his arms. The young man realizes that in addition to controlling them, he can also share senses with his swarm. Through the eyes of an insect, he sees the world differently and notices monsters everywhere. With this, he observes his creatures and realizes that they are also excited for battle. So he decides to test his new abilities and unleashes his entire swarm to attack. His army of insects charges forward with full force and devastates the monsters in their path. A poisonous mist from the swarm envelops all the monsters and defeats them without any difficulty. Several creatures stand no chance against the overwhelming power of his new insect army. With his new army, he barely needs to act, and the shared vision prevents monsters from hiding. With a satisfied smile, he realizes that he will soon be able to create a new swarm for himself. At that moment, he remembers that he hasn't yet checked the devouring value needed for the next level. But when he looks at the status window, he is completely shocked by what he sees. We then see an abandoned warehouse where a hunter shouts for his boss upon returning. The man reports that someone has cleared the entire area, and not a single monster is left. His boss is shocked and asks if he's serious about what just happened. His leader suspects that the culprit is a powerful group because they needed the spider venom. Suddenly, one of the men notices that someone is approaching them. At that instant, the protagonist appears, saying that he has finally found other awakened ones. He introduces himself and said he is there just to level up and trade food with them. The group leader is relieved to see it's just one person and accepts the trade with a smile. Our young hunter says he knows that and has some valuable items for the trade. The men then surround him with their weapons drawn and ask him to show the items. With a smile, the young man reveals the bodies of the spiders he defeated as his trade currency. Shocked, the men wonder if it was the kid who defeated all those creatures by himself. With red eyes, the protagonist says that he knew what they were going to try to do all along. He then says he's in a bad mood and tells them to take what they need and get out of there. Immediately after, the hunter summons his army and orders them to protect the surroundings. His insects obey and spread out across the area to ensure their master's safety. While eating something, the young man thinks that he now gets hungry faster because of the swarm. He sees that the value to evolve has doubled and realizes it will take a long time to level up. The young man thinks about looking for animal nests or secret realms to speed up his progress. Our hunter wonders if his partner is still sleeping, as creating the swarm left her tired. Suddenly, he senses someone's presence and questions why that person is there. The young man stands up and smells battle in the air, wondering what's happening. At that moment, he finds a girl collapsed on the ground who recognizes him and seems to be injured. Frightened, she identifies him as the one who cleared the spider nest and begs for his help. Our protagonist is surprised for not having noticed her before and understands that she was being hunted. He realizes it's too late for her to escape because her pursuers have already arrived. Then one of the men who was with the previous group appears and recognizes him immediately. A new group emerges, led by a blue-haired man, and one of them yells at the young man. They watch him camping alone by a fire in the middle of the abandoned warehouse. The leader stops his subordinate from advancing, and the man threatens the young man, asking about the girl. The group leader praises the young man for leveling up so quickly, but says he has something urgent to do. He then asks about the girl, while the young man thinks about the man's strong aura and how he knows his level. Our hunter points in a random direction and says he saw someone passing by but isn't sure. The blue-haired man says he'll believe him for now, but advises him to be more honest. With a serious look, he threatens him, saying that the Xiao family of the Zhen Empire will not forgive him if he lies. With this, the protagonist understands that this powerful group belongs to the famous Zhen Empire. He remembers that the families there are very powerful and realizes the men have finally left. After all that, the hunter decides he can't stay there any longer because the place is no longer safe. At that moment, the girl who was hiding appears and sighs in relief for being saved by him. Without wasting time, the young man grabs her by the arm and pulls her, telling her to come with him quickly. He questions her angrily, asking how she managed to get involved with that group of people. The young woman explains that her family was betrayed, and that the man is hunting her to silence her forever. She thanks him and promises to reward him in the future, but he ignores her, saying he doesn't want to get involved. Suddenly, the young man's eyes widen, and he realizes that something strange is happening. The girl panics and yells that someone has used a barrier spell, and that they have been detected. Our young man calls for his enemies to show themselves, knowing that there's no point in running anymore. He then notices that there are many enemies surrounding them, and the girl by his side is terrified. With glowing eyes, the leader says he knew about the lie and orders his men to capture them. The young woman is desperate while the protagonist faces her, serious and without any fear of the enemies. She then yells at the group leader, asking why he wants her so badly, and he responds with mockery. Our young man hears the girl's family name and maintains his determined look towards the enemy. With that, the girl tries to threaten him, saying her family will get revenge, but the man just laughs at her. He then reveals that without the Xiao family's protection, her ancestors would have been annihilated. The blue-haired man says that to his family, They are nothing more than worthless peasants. He calls them cattle ready for slaughter, while the protagonist listens to everything in silence. Their leader adds that there will be nothing to investigate, because no trace will be left. At that moment, a large red energy formation covers the entire area around them. The young woman panics and says it's the prisoner dragon formation and they can't get out. His subordinates then prepare to follow orders and leave no one alive, but the leader stops his man from advancing and says he's interested in the creation type awakened. He reveals that he knows the young man has a divine class and offers him a chance to have everything he wants. The man then proposes a deal to the young man, telling him to capture the girl and join them. Our protagonist gives a smile, and the young woman gets worried, thinking he might betray her at any moment. With a serious look, the young man scoffs at the Xia family and rejects the offer with a curse. He then refuses to join them and calls them out for a fight as a purple aura surrounds him. Angered by the refusal, the group leader orders his men to finish them both off immediately. His subordinates advance, but one of them warns the others not to be careless with this opponent. One of the enemies warns that the young man uses poison, and that they shouldn't attack him head-on. With a smile, the hunter says that poison isn't the only thing he can use and activates his talent. At that moment, one of the subordinates leaps into the air to attack the young man while he prepares his ability. He activates the evolution of all things, and giant green plants emerge from the ground, scaring the men. One of the men is shocked and questions what ability that is, as he thought he only used poison. The enemy yells for his companions to cut the plants, because they are very weak and easy to destroy. But the leader realizes that the plants are meant to block their vision, and that the young man will take the opportunity to attack. Our protagonist says it's too late because his shadow creatures are already ready to strike. One of the henchmen is terrified to see a shadow monster appearing right behind him by surprise. Without wasting time, the creatures advance and begin to attack the men who can't defend themselves. An enemy's sword breaks, and he shouts in shock that the opponent can summon monsters. The man screams that the poison comes from the creatures, and he can't dodge the attack in time. With glowing eyes, the protagonist extends his hand and says he's got him. He then kicks him far away, calling him trash and telling him to get lost quickly. Meanwhile, the leader advances and uses his technique to attack the shadow creatures up close. The young man is surprised and realizes that the leader is faster than his poison mist. Their leader then uses his family's secret technique and creates a golden energy dragon. The man says the young man is tough to deal with, but his low level and lack of speed are holding him back. Suddenly, the young woman steps in front and creates a shield, revealing she's a defense type to protect him. The blue-haired man is furious because he can't believe he had forgotten about her. Our young hunter sees the distraction and seizes the perfect opportunity to attack the enemy. One of the henchmen shouts for his master to watch out for the creatures surrounding him from behind. Without hesitation, the leader grabs one of his own men by the hood to use him as a defense. He throws him in front of the creature's attack, using him as a human shield to protect himself. Our protagonist gets angry and calls him a scumbag for using one of his own men to block the blow. Lying on the ground, the man tries to say something to his master but succumbs to his injuries. His leader says his man's sacrifice was not in vain and admits that the kid is very strong. With a smile, he reveals that he will use the Yuan Dragon pill to increase his power. The man then turns to the young man and says with an air of superiority that it all ends here. Surrounded by a red aura, he threatens the young man, saying his next blow will be fatal. Our hunter just stares at the enemy with a serious look and prepares for what's to come. Their leader then launches his golden energy dragon and says the next blow will be the young man's end. With the attack approaching, the young man is on high alert and braces for the imminent impact. The enemy shouts the name of the second form of his technique as he charges full speed towards them. With that, a great wave of golden energy is fired in their direction with immense force. But the girl steps in front and uses an enhanced shield to try to protect her companion from the blow. The villain's attack collides with the barrier, creating a huge explosion of power that shakes the entire place. She then shouts that his strength has increased a lot and her shield won't hold for much longer. Our hunter realizes that all of his attacks are fatal and can't believe the enemy still has so much power. Without giving them time to recover, the blue-haired man continues with his relentless attacks. Our protagonist then decides that to deal with someone so cruel, he can't go easy on him. At that moment, he decides he will no longer show mercy and unleashes a large amount of dark energy. The group leader is shocked and speechless upon seeing that immense purple aura appearing out of nowhere. The young woman is also surprised and wonders if the young man is really the creation type she thought he was. He then orders his creatures to advance, and several huge shadow monsters appear around him. The villain's eyes widen, and he is completely terrified by the overwhelming power of his opponent. Their leader becomes desperate upon seeing the absurd number of shadow creatures surrounding him from all sides. But he tries to maintain his composure and says that no matter the number, they are all just mere insects. Our protagonist just stares at him with a cold look and questions if he really believes that. With that, the villain is shocked to realize that the monsters he destroyed are regenerating on their own. He then panics and wonders what kind of creatures these are that cannot be annihilated. With a smile, the young hunter says he wants to see how long the enemy can last. With no other option, the blue-haired man uses his technique once more to try to clear a path. But he despairs upon seeing that the creatures are devouring the energy of the dragon he created. One of the monsters then takes advantage of the distraction and manages to bite the man's arm, making him drop his sword. The villain realizes his arm has been poisoned and grabs an item, saying he has no other choice. He then activates a treasure and mocks the young man, saying that some broken insects can't defeat him. The young man wonders what that treasure is and decides to use his devouring ability to test it. His shield remains intact, and the enemy explains that it is a precious treasure passed down through his family. He adds that once activated, the item can block any type of external attack. The villain then says that the hunter has cornered him, but now he can't do anything against him. His enemy then makes the same proposal as before, and says the young man should accept the great opportunity. Our young hunter gets irritated and says the villain doesn't understand the situation he's in. He then threatens the young man, saying that even if he doesn't defeat him today, his family will hunt him down tomorrow. With a smile, the young man reminds him that he said he would leave no trace and asks what would happen if he disappeared. At that moment, a huge dark blade forms and charges towards the protective shield. The blue-haired man turns around, frightened, upon seeing a shadow of the young man appearing right behind him. Suddenly, a giant, dark monster emerges from the shadows, leaving the enemy in a panic. The creature then says she has awakened and is ready to eat, thanking her master for the meal. Completely terrified, the group leader can't believe what he is seeing in front of him. Without wasting time, the creature advances and attacks the villain's shield with overwhelming force. The man screams in pain as he desperately tries to keep his protective barrier active. Our protagonist then says that the villain and his treasure will be good nutrition for his creature. With a great impact, the protective barrier finally shatters into several pieces. The blue-haired man screams in despair upon seeing that his shield has been completely destroyed. He then says it's impossible because his family's treasure was unbreakable and ends up being caught. The dark monster advances on the fallen villain, who can't believe his treasure was broken. With that, the creature devours him in a great explosion of energy, leaving no trace behind. Thus, the protagonist makes sure that no one will find out what happened there. He then calls his creature back, and she obeys his command, returning to his side. The monster transforms into a little girl and thanks him, while the other young woman looks at him in terror. She then panics, thinking that now that she knows his secret, he will try to silence her. Our young man stares at her seriously and says he had forgotten about her, which makes her even more frightened. Our hunter stares at her with a cold look and wonders what he should do with her now that she has seen everything. With his shadow creatures around him, he threatens her and tells her to give him a good reason not to be silenced. Desperate, the young woman kneels and offers a valuable treasure, saying it's worth more than 10 million. The young man takes the item and comments that she seems sincere, but knows how to lie very well and has seen too much. She then swears to the heavens that she won't lie and that if she does, she can be struck by 5 lightning bolts. The girl claims she is telling the truth and even offers her ID to prove who she is. He takes the document and sees a picture of a much younger girl and asks if that's really her. Embarrassed, the young woman says the photo is old and that she has grown a lot, but quickly corrects herself. Our hunter can't hold back and ends up laughing at the young woman's funny and desperate reaction. But he soon becomes serious again and says there's no guarantee she'll keep the secret because only the dead tell no tales. With that, the young woman takes out a giant scroll and tells the young man not to worry because she has a solution. The young hunter is confused and doesn't understand what that item she took out is. She explains that it's a seal scroll, and that if the secret is revealed, the person dies instantly. Seeing that she wasn't lying, he accepts the deal and says he won't silence her anymore. The girl then asks the price of the scroll, and the young man replies that it costs about 10 million. The young man is furious upon realizing that the only valuable item he wanted was used by her. He says he's going to the Night's Watch, but the young woman insists he go with her because her house has a portal. Arriving there, the hunter is faced with a gigantic mansion while someone shouts inside. Inside the house, several servants are kneeling and asking for forgiveness because the young lady suffered. The girl's mother is furious, but the father tries to calm her down, and the protagonist realizes her name is real. The man thanks the young man for saving his daughter and offers a black card as a reward. Our young man thanks him for the card, but before he can refuse breakfast, his stomach rumbles loudly. Embarrassed, he agrees to eat a little, and the young woman's parents take him to the dining room. At the table, he devours an absurd amount of food and thinks he needs to eat more because of his insects. The girl's parents are shocked at how much he eats and comment that this is eating a little, The mother comments that although he's a rookie, he managed to save her daughter, and that he's quite handsome. The couple then realizes that the young man could be a great ally against their enemies and protect their daughter. With that, the parents try to set them up, and the young woman is dying of embarrassment. Our hunter finishes his meal, thanks them for their hospitality, and runs off, saying he has an appointment. Her father tells his daughter to say goodbye to her son-in-law, but the mother reveals that the card has a tracker. The young woman thinks that although he's scary, the young man is really strong and handsome. Meanwhile, at the Xiao family mansion, the atmosphere is very heavy and gloomy. The family head shouts that his grandson's life jade has broken and demands an investigation. A young man with blue hair says his cousin was useless and not worth getting angry over. His grandfather agrees that he was mediocre but was still his grandson, and the culprit must be found. With a wicked smile, the young man promises that he will slaughter those responsible for his grandfather. Our protagonist finally arrives at the Night's Watch base and is greeted by some people. A man with a scar greets him excitedly and says he will introduce him to the team. He introduces Yun Shaok, the support, who was the youngest until the young man's arrival, which charms her. Next is Duan Feng, a proud and quiet marksman who greets him seriously. Then we have Chu Bulang, a talkative warrior who is excited to meet someone of divine level. Finally, the vice commander Tang Jin, a fire mage who invites him to eat with her. The young man thanks everyone and says that a mere creation type like him is no big deal, but the team reassures him, saying they don't look down on him, and that this will be his new home. His group leader says that to go to the training camp, he needs to reach level 20 in 3 days. Our young man reveals that he is at level 17, and the man with the scar is completely shocked. With a laugh, he says he knew the young man was a divine talent, and that leveling up 3 times will be easy. Suddenly, the whole team goes on high alert, with serious expressions as if something is wrong. Their leader then asks if the rookie has dealt with someone strong, because he felt a power investigating him. Our protagonist becomes thoughtful and soon suspects it might be the Xiao family looking for him. The blue-haired girl creates a soundproof barrier so they can talk without being overheard by spies. With that, a huge energy dome covers the entire building, completely isolating the sound inside. Our protagonist then confesses that he killed the Xiao family's grandson, but doesn't know how he was discovered, as he left no traces. The whole team is shocked to learn that he faced the Xiao family of the Zhen Empire, and the young man apologizes for the trouble. But the leader says that the Xiao family is known for its crimes, and that the young man actually did a service to the people. The man also comments that this grandson was the least favored, so the grandfather might not get personally involved. The young man is moved because it's the first time he feels at home, but the leader has a very important question. He asks how a level 17 creation type defeated someone of the second transfer, and the young man says he had help. With a smile, he reveals that he was helped by Luo Sandao of the Luo family, who has a hidden defense profession. His team members are surprised again because the Luo family is the richest in the entire Jiangnan region. Their leader laughs and says that although they are not a fighting family, their financial power could be very useful in the future. Suddenly, the man notices something and says that if the girl is a defense type, she wouldn't have any attack power. Our rookie then reveals that he actually has 2 professions and shows a poisonous aura coming from his hand. Surprised, the leader asks how many more surprises he has, and the young man warns him to be careful with the poison. But the man grabs the young man's hand and says the poison doesn't work on him because his defense is too high. The young man's poison pierces through the leader's defense and begins to corrode his hand, leaving the young man surprised. Our protagonist points out that the uncle's defense broke, and the embarrassed man shouts that he just wasn't defending himself. Embarrassed, the man asks the group's healer for help, and she agrees while holding back a laugh. While the young woman heals his hand, the leader praises the poison and says that the more abilities he has, the better. His vice commander says they can't risk it for resources because the Xiao family is also likely to participate in the training camp. Our rookie then asks what kind of resources these are, and the man explains they are beast essences and equipment. He continues and says that the top ranked get mysterious fruits and secret realm scrolls. The young man realizes that with these resources, he can create a new swarm and says he will participate because he trusts in his strength. The man with the scar becomes thoughtful with the young man's request and says he needs some time to think about it. Meanwhile, at the Xiao family residence near Westlake, the atmosphere is very different. Suddenly, a gigantic wave forms in the water as if someone with immense power is training there. This is Xiao Beihan, the pride of the family, and he tells his servant to stop talking nonsense and give the report. His servant reveals that his cousin was with Luo Sandao and a friend named Jiang Chen before the incident. He continues and says that Jiang Chen awakened a divine level creation type and joined the Night's Watch. With a wicked smile, Beihan says that since they are going to the training camp, he no longer needs to make a trip to eliminate them. A short time later, the leader of the Night's Watch calls the young man to talk about an important matter. The man says he registered him for the training camp, but arranged another mission for him with the princess of the Mu family. He also comments that she is beautiful and the same age as the young man and tells him to use his charm to win her over. At that moment, the doorbell rings, and the man with the scar announces excitedly that the girl has just arrived. A beautiful young woman enters with another man and asks why the leader changed his mind about lending someone. The man replies that it was because of a handsome young man, and the protagonist thinks she is different from the rumors. Their leader then explains that the condition for the deal was to take the young hunter along with them on the mission. The young woman complains that she is already giving the scroll for free, but the man says she also needs someone experienced. The young woman then turns to the rookie and asks what his combat power is for the mission. She is furious to learn that he is a level 17 rookie, and on top of that, a creation type which she considers useless. The leader of the Night's Watch gets angry and defends the young man, saying he is of divine level and has 2 professions. The other man asks for calm and explains that the young woman recently broke up with her boyfriend and is therefore unstable. Embarrassed, the girl agrees to the partnership, and the young hunter is confused by so much information at once. Soon, they are teleported to the secret realm, which is a village where they need to eliminate the monsters and destroy the altar. One of the companions goes ahead and says he will lead the group and warns everyone to return if they encounter danger. The young woman doubts that the young man can clear the realm alone, and the group leader warns everyone to return if something goes wrong. The girl yells at the rookie and tells him not to cry or get in their way. While the young man thinks she's crazy, the group prepares to enter the level 30 realm, and one of the guys says he will protect the protagonist, who has a bad feeling. The group arrives at the village, and one of the guys thinks the place is beautiful, but wonders where the monsters for the mission are. The team leader then organizes the attack formation and warns everyone to stay together for support. They find a large stone plaque that reveals the name of the place as Guangming Village, but the group leader senses a dark energy and warns everyone to be careful with that strange plague. The blue-haired girl then uses a purification magic to protect everyone from the evil energy of the place. With this, the protagonist is impressed with the buff that cleared his mind and increased his agility and energy. Suddenly, a dark and evil energy appears in the sky, covering the entire village and putting the group on alert. The stone plaque begins to crack and glow red, while the group leader shouts for everyone to run. Desperate, the man shouts for everyone to return immediately, because he realizes what is happening. The secret realm has undergone a mutation, and the system announces that it is now a nightmare-level village of dead spirits. A red barrier covers the village, and the system says that the light has dissipated, and the gates of the realm of the dead have opened. Our protagonist finds himself alone in a dark place and realizes that everyone was separated by the realm's mutation. He thinks it's risky to fight alone at this level, and decides to find his friends and return to the teleportation stone. The young man enters a house, but is startled to see that the place is full of coffins and a portrait on the wall. Looking closer, he gets the impression that the old man's portrait is smiling at him in a sinister way. Suddenly, the protagonist turns around and realizes that all the coffins in the room are opening by themselves. From inside them emerge level 30 dead spirits that are immune to physical attacks and ready to fight. The young hunter gets annoyed with the monster's immunity and decides to use his poison to finish them off. But the poison spreads through the room without causing any damage, and the young man realizes he is in a difficult situation. He understands that his poison is also a physical attack, but suddenly his little familiar appears, hungry. His little demon says she wants to eat, and the young man wonders if she can devour them, since that is also a physical attack. She confirms that she can eat them and that they are tasty, so the young man lets her try but warns her to be careful. With a wicked smile, the little girl says she is strong, and that those creatures are just food for her. His little demon then begins to devour the energy of the dead spirits, leaving them all desperate. She is very happy and has fun devouring all the spirits while the protagonist just watches the scene. He remembers that the girl is from the abyss and can evolve to become its lord, being superior to the undead. Since the spirits can be eaten, the young man decides to summon his entire swarm for a grand feast of souls. His swarm spreads and devours the spirits while the young man gains a lot of experience with each one. With this, a system notification announces that he has leveled up to 18 and gained more attribute points. The young man is surprised to have gained 50,000 experience in 10 seconds and says this realm is perfect for him. With the monsters defeated, the young man says he can now finally investigate that scary portrait on the wall. The young man approaches the portrait and asks mockingly why the old man isn't smiling like before. He congratulates the little demon and asks curiously if she can also devour that portrait on the wall. But suddenly, the portrait shatters into several pieces and emits a strong light, scaring them both. The system then announces that he has scared a level 30, 5 necromancer guard to death and gained experience. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the group leader fights desperately against a horde of dead spirits. He uses a magical weapon and thinks he is lucky to be fighting but worries about the safety of the low-level rookie. Suddenly, he receives several experience notifications and is shocked to see that a colleague is killing the monsters. He wonders who is killing everything so quickly and dismisses the others, because he knows they wouldn't have the power. He then suspects it might be the girl from the Mu family, and is very surprised at how strong she actually is. The man decides that with someone clearing the way, he can save the others and runs to help the rookie hold on. Meanwhile, the girl from the Mu family is on the ground, injured and surrounded by a huge group of dead spirits. The young woman panics because she has a hidden profession and wants to help her family, but her energy is almost gone. Suddenly, she notices that the dead spirits are fleeing and wonders if it's because of the mysterious colleague. The girl feels a powerful aura approaching, and thinks she just needs to hold on a little longer to be saved. But the remaining monsters surround her and grab her tightly while the girl screams in pain and despair on the ground. With a face full of terror, the young woman extends her hand and begs for help as one of the spirits prepares to attack. Then suddenly, the rookie appears in front of her, and the girl is shocked to see that her savior is the one she despised the most. The girl on the ground screams the rookie's name, begging for help as the spirits surround her. The young man then pulls her by the arm to save her from an attack, and yells for her to run faster. But immediately after, he pushes her aside abruptly, telling her not to block the way. With that, the young woman falls to the ground, not understanding her teammate's rude attitude. Annoyed, she looks at the young man with a look of anger and wonders what got into him. Suddenly, a massive purple energy cuts through all the spirits, and the girl is impressed by the power. She then thinks that he is not a useless creation type, and realizes that this is the young man's true power. With a racing heart and a red face, the young woman blames his poison for her strange reaction. Half an hour later, the rest of the group finally meets, and the leader complains that the spirits are annoying. The young woman with blue hair notices signs of battle and wonders if the protagonist is okay. Seeing the remains of monsters, she tells everyone to search because they would be in trouble if something happened to him. But suddenly, the pair is shocked by the scene they find just ahead on the street. They see the rookie sitting on the stairs with the girl from the Mu family massaging his shoulders. The other young man finds this strange and suspects they might be the final boss in disguise to deceive them. But in reality, the proud young woman is just thanking her savior in a very peculiar way. The blue-haired girl yells for him to stop and demands answers before they do anything. But the young woman steps in front of the young man to defend him, and says they will have to go through her first. The young man pushes the girl's face away and says he's not a monster, just charming, and gives proof about the boss. With that, the group calms down, and the blue-haired girl hugs him in relief while the leader asks if he is injured. His two girls flock around him, and the other guys look on with envy while the young man tells them to get a grip. Our protagonist then gets annoyed and asks if they want to fight the boss or not, and everyone agrees. With that, the young man kicks down a door and leads the group into the courtyard in search of the big boss. The group then enters the huge courtyard of the house and prepares for the fight to come. Before them appears the enormous leader of the dead spirits, a level 40 boss. Their leader shouts that it's a level 40 boss and tells the girl from the Mu family to protect the low-level rookie. He warns that everyone must be careful because they can't make mistakes, and the monster begins to move. The monster then slams the ground and releases a purple energy while the leader shouts for everyone to get back. But to everyone's surprise, the creature kneels in front of the rookie, and the leader wonders if it's begging. The young man says his friends are injured, and he will take care of the boss alone, then calls for Little Nine to eat. His little demon then begins to devour the boss's energy, which is terrified by the situation. The system announces that he has killed the boss and gained experience, so he levels up to 26. With the mission completed, the group leader is shocked and asks if it was the rookie who killed the spirits. The young man smiles and says modestly that he was lucky, because his poison was effective against the monsters. His reward screen appears, and everyone is shocked to see that the young man achieved the maximum SSS rating. The group then thanks the young man for carrying them and bows in gratitude, leaving him embarrassed. He looks at all the items he won, and thinks the drop rate was great and the equipment is worth billions. The young man analyzes a platinum cloak that grants invisibility, and decides he will keep it and sell the rest. A notice says the realm will disappear, and the young man thinks that with more essence, he will have a new swarm. We then see the city from the top of the Night's Watch office building, where a man is observing. He receives the news that the realm has undergone a mutation, and the rookie has won over the girl from the Mu family. The man is surprised to learn that the young man carried the team, and decides he needs to speak with him alone. Back in the office, the superior tells the others to leave, and the protagonist stays behind, waiting. The man then approaches the young man with a serious expression, and tells him to be honest, leaving the young man confused. he says the poison excuse might fool the others, but it won't work on him. Staring at the young man, he asks what else the rookie is hiding, and the young man just looks back at him. The young man questions whether he will have to reveal his insects to his superior, as they are ancient and dangerous calamities. With an intimidating look, the superior demands that the young man tell him everything he is hiding. But suddenly, the man starts laughing and teases the young man for getting nervous with his act. Sitting down, he says he won't force the revelation and that the more tricks the young man has, the better it will be for everyone. Grateful, the young man promises an epic set of equipment, but Uncle G thinks it's just a joke. The man then says that although it's good to have secrets, he has some important things to explain. With that, his energy reveals 2 bandaged bodies on the floor, leaving the rookie completely shocked. His superior reveals that they are level 60 and 90 masters, and that he couldn't have handled them. The young man asks if they wanted him, but his uncle scolds him and says their target was the girl. He then asks why they wanted the girl, and his superior simply hands him a scroll. Our young man reads the document and discovers that it is a genius hunt list with names he has never heard of. Suddenly, he recognizes a name, and the man confirms that the greatest geniuses of his generation are listed there. His uncle explains that the list has the 100 greatest geniuses of Dacia, and all are descendants of the Seal Kings. The girl from his group, for example, is only the 77th, but even so, she has very strong guards. With this, the superior warns him to imagine the power of the Xiao family, which is at the top of this list. The young man understands that this is a warning not to attract attention, and the uncle confirms that he should be discreet. His uncle explains that the other geniuses have powerful protectors, and he fears he won't be able to protect his nephew properly. Our young man says he will remember everything and is grateful because his uncle is trying to protect him, not blame him. The superior then comments that if the young man's performance leaked, his position on the list would be higher than the girl's. With a mischievous smile, he asks what the young man did with the girl in the realm and teases his peculiar taste. Embarrassed, the protagonist tells his uncle to go to sleep and runs off while the man says it wasn't a bad thing. We then switch to the young man's apartment that same night, showing the building from the outside. In his room, he looks at the essences he bought by selling the items and prepares for his second swarm. He pours a rank 3 essence into his hand and calls his insects to feed on the expensive liquid. His little 9 appears on his shoulder, wanting to eat, but he forbids her because the essence is for reproduction. With that, the little demon starts to cry with tear-filled eyes, making a dramatic scene. Unable to stand the crying, he gives in and lets her eat a little, and she praises him happily with her victory. Next, he takes a rank 4 essence, which is even more powerful, to continue the process. A system screen appears, warning that the miasmal wings have begun to reproduce at an accelerated rate. Soon after, the reproduction is completed, and the notice shows that he now has a total of 100,000 insects. But suddenly, the young man looks scared at his arm, which begins to disintegrate into purple particles. The young man shouts, not understanding anything, as his arms transform into a cloud of purple insects. His insects spread throughout the apartment, and the young man shouts furiously for them not to go out and destroy his house. With a raised fist, he orders them all to return to the nest and stay quiet until they receive an order. After everything, he looks at the destroyed wall and complains that his insects are terribly destructive. Looking at the sleeping little 9, he wonders how he will manage so many hungry insects. He then opens his status screen and sees that he now has the title of Insect Sovereign and 100,000 descendants. Our protagonist is impressed with his 197 stars of power and thinks he is almost at the level of a master. With everything ready, he says he just needs to wait for the trip to reach level 30 and make his second transfer. The young man can't wait for that, because then he can finally get a new mother insect for his army. We then see a blonde woman arguing with an older man known as the Heavenly Blade King. Back to Uncle G, he explains that it is necessary, because the young man will encounter an arrogant genius and won't be able to hide secrets. The man reveals that something about the rookie scares him, and he fears that the young man's poison type is actually a taboo. His wife is terrified by the possibility and shouts for the superior not to scare her with these ideas. He remembers an ancient forbidden occupation from 600 years ago, where all those discovered were eliminated. The woman argues that if this were true, it would have been revealed by now, and accuses the uncle of being paranoid. Sitting on the couch, the man just sighs and says he also hopes he is just being paranoid about the matter.